VONDRAN v. Newman. VONDRAN v. Newman. Who? VONDRAN versus Newman again? New filings in the Regan Benson versus BlackHartKnight case show a path forward as the two mighty titans of legality square off for their clients. Did another lawyer set up a bogus scheme to file DMCA Counter notices? Newman! The Unhinged Attorney is going to find out as he returns with another joint statement in an entirely different case. Jose Chille DeCastro appeals his self-dismissed case against Team Skeptic and Daniel Clement, and his court-dismissed case against Blue Bacon. What the what? How, when, why, what? How much do you got? Plus, Leroy Truth gets showered in cash, and his supporters get showered in pastries, sandwiches, and Chinese food after he gets arrested in New Jersey. I'm your humble newsreader, Pence. And did I say showered in pastries, sandwiches, and Chinese food? Free food for acting like an idiot? By God, Jim, why don't you leave the house? Damn you! There's free food to be had, while I fail to bail you out of jail. If there's free food involved, you're obligated to bring it to me as I bring you to new levels of auditing insanity. Wednesday's filing of a joint case management statement and proposed order in the ongoing lawsuit between Regan Benson's Helping Hands for Dignity organization and Anthony BlackHartKnight Gurkha brought a second showdown in 2 weeks between attorneys Randall S. the Unhinged Attorney Newman, Esquire, and Steve VONDRAN. This is the second lawsuit where both attorneys represent high-profile individuals in the First Amendment auditing community, as Attorney VONDRAN is currently representing YouTuber Jonathan Frauditor Troll Who Know in a lawsuit brought against him by Attorney Newman's client Christopher Denver Metro Audits Cordova. Both cases have similar premises, as they both involve, among other issues, the alleged misrepresentation of copyright claims made in the DMCA Counter notification process. Benson is the owner of the Helping Hands for Dignity 501c3 organization and contends that in May and September of 2023, defendant Gurkha used portions of 2 of her videos without authorization. According to Benson, one of the videos uses her footage for roughly 75% of its runtime, with large, uninterrupted blocks of her material lasting up to 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The second video's runtime is made up of 89% of Benson's video, with 6 minutes and 27 seconds of unaltered footage. Benson submitted 2 DMCA takedown notices in August of 2025, with Gurka allegedly replying with two identical boilerplate responses that claimed his usage of the videos were completely transformative. Additionally, Gurka submitted his mailing address as a location where he had previously lived until the house partially burnt down over a year before his filing. Gurka countered that he significantly transformed Benson's video as he, quote, became immediately disturbed by the conduct of the channel owner as she was screaming at the law enforcement officers in the video for ignoring her. Defendant edited the video, replacing the vulgar language with censor bleeps to make it more watchable for his audience. He placed commentary in two sections of the video, questioning her motivations and inquiring as to her mental stability, reacting to her bizarre conduct. He also made other substantial, transformative edits to his video, creating an entirely new genre of content, unquote. While he does not address why he gave a false address during his filing, he does state that he was fearful that YouTube would remove his channel and that he did not act in bad faith in his response to the DMCA takedown notices. The outstanding legal matters are listed as 1. Whether defendant's use of plaintiff's copyrighted video content constitutes fair use under 17 U.S.C. Section 107. 2. Whether defendant's DMCA Counter notifications contained material misrepresentations in violation of 17 U.S.C. Section 512F. 3. Whether plaintiff is entitled to damages, injunctive relief, or attorney's fees under the Copyright Act or the DMCA. 4. Whether defendant can be held liable for bad faith counter notice when the fair use factors are in his favor. And 5. Whether defendant should be declared the prevailing party to this lawsuit and entitled to recover their costs and attorney fees. If the case survives until trial, the proposed one-day bench trial will be held in March of 2027. The next update in this lawsuit will come on November 18th, 2025, when both sides appear via video conference with Judge William H. Orrick. Jose Chille DeCastro surprised the auditing community on Thursday as he filed an appeal of his once-thought settled California Superior Court case against Michael Blue Bacon Peratini, Kate Peter, Daniel Clement, and Team Skeptic. DeCastro originally filed the lawsuit in 2023 as his federal civil lawsuit against Peter, Josh Abrams, and Google was in its closing days. That suit was originally a defamation and harassment suit against Peter and Abrams, which became the basis for his nearly identical refiling against Skeptic, Clement, Peter, and Peratini. The new suit faced problems, as it was determined that he failed to properly serve Team Skeptic with either the original or amended complaints, failed to serve Clement with the amended complaint, and may or may not have failed to properly serve Kate Peter. DeCastro would later file and be granted a default against Peter, ending Peter's ability to defend herself, but the service of either the original complaint or the amended complaint were always in question and was not pursued, as others were dismissed from the lawsuit. Peratini was the only defendant to accept service and was the only active defendant during the lawsuit. While the lawsuit was hampered by DeCastro's incarceration for unrelated charges in Nevada, it was also hampered by DeCastro's willingness to delay the lawsuit in order to financially damage Peratini. DeCastro refused to take part in discovery on multiple occasions, or when he did respond, he offered last-minute filing filled with gibberish and non-answers. He was ultimately sanctioned roughly $10,000 during the course of the lawsuit, with another $5,000 awarded to Peratini at the end of the lawsuit. The diminutive YouTuber ultimately voluntarily dismissed the lawsuit against defendants Team Skeptic and Daniel Clement without prejudice. He refused to extend the dismissal offer to defendant Kate Peter. Defendant Peratini refused to accept a similar offer, as the court had not yet ruled on the final factors in his pending motion to dismiss the lawsuit with prejudice. In the end, the court granted the dismissal, as to keep Skeptic and to Clement, then granted Peratini's motion to dismiss with prejudice and terminating sanctions against DeCastro. DeCastro is seeking, 1, to reverse the trial court's vacatur of appellant's voluntary dismissal of defendants Peratini, Clement, and Omo, filed April 15, 2025. 2, reverse all terminating sanctions and monetary sanctions totaling $15,255 imposed against appellant during his 117-day wrongful incarceration. And 3, restore appellant's case against defendant Catherine Peter and remand for proceedings on the merits as to Catherine Peter only. And 4, award such other relief as the court deems just and proper. His stated grounds for appeal as the trial court violated appellant's constitutional right to due process by imposing terminating and monetary sanctions for conduct physically impossible during appellant's 117-day wrongful incarceration, conviction later overturned on appeal. The court further erred by vacating appellant's absolute statutory right to voluntary dismissal under Code of Civil Procedure Section 581b1. DeCastro's sudden announcement did nothing to spark any of his GoFundMe campaigns this week, as most of the market was again covered in goose eggs. Sean Paul Long Island Audit Reyes won Wednesday with a $50 donation to his Support the Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption campaign, and a $10 donation to his Help Me Fight These Unlawful Charges and Injustice campaign. The market went dark on Thursday, with no observed donations to any of the campaigns we follow, including DeCastro's 3 active campaigns. This is a breaking news story. Zachary Liberty Troll Cooker and Randall S. the Unhinged Attorney Newman, Esquire, returned to the top of the news on Tuesday with a joint case management filing in their case against attorney Robert Allen Reed and YouTuber Frauditor Roundup. Attorney Reed gained fame within the First Amendment auditing community in 2022 during the period of time that Jose Chille DeCastro was issuing DMCA takedown notices to any and all channels that used portions of his videos. DeCastro had successfully temporarily taken down sites belonging to YouTubers Glober Mom and John Irish Demon O'Day, but was also allegedly threatening to take the mailing addresses provided in the DMCA Counter notifications in order to dox his enemies. When DeCastro carried through with his doxing of YouTuber Glober Mom, Reed's services came to light and were widely distributed throughout the First Amendment auditing community. Reed essentially ran a website where, for a small fee, he allowed users to use the mailing address of his law office on their DMCA Counter notices in the agreement that all legal service would be accepted at the office. For a larger fee, Reed would file a generic response as the DMCA counterclaim, making it clear that he did not review the content or act as the respondent's official attorney, along with the use of his law office for service of any legal service. As DeCastro's threats continued for months, multiple YouTube personalities took advantage of Reed's services and were able to successfully challenge DeCastro's DMCA claims, as he did not follow up with direct lawsuits against them. Instead, unsuccessfully arguing that all of his claims were represented in his then ongoing litigation against YouTube itself. When DeCastro's threats ended after he was suspended from Twitter for doxing in early 2023, Reed's services became all but forgotten, his name only resurfacing in mid-2025 as Newman began filing lawsuits on behalf of his many clients in the First Amendment auditing community. In the joint statement, Newman contended that in April 2025, defendant Frauditor Roundup received a DMCA takedown notice from plaintiff Cooker. He used Reed's service to file a generic DMCA counter notice that claimed that the entirety of the video was de facto fair use. It was later revealed that Reed was not representing Frauditor Roundup, but was indeed running the previously described DMCA counter notification service. As Reed filed the claim on behalf of Frauditor Roundup, he took responsibility for ownership of Frauditor Roundup's content and YouTube channel. Reed claims that because his own submission on behalf of Frauditor Roundup was rejected by YouTube, who later accepted the same submission as later refiled by Frauditor Roundup, and that he was acting in good faith in his attempt at filing. It is noted by Reed that his law practice, including the service to provide DMCA counter notices, has recently closed. The outstanding legal issues outlined in the statement were as follows. 1. Whether the Frauditor Roundup channel's use of plaintiff's copyrighted video content constitutes fair use under 17 U.S.C. Section 107. 2. Whether defendants' DMCA counter notifications contained material misrepresentations in violation of 17 U.S.C. Section 512F. 3. Whether Reed's operation of a counter mill was violation of 17 U.S.C. Sections 512F and G. 4. Whether plaintiff is entitled to damages, injunctive relief, or attorney's fees under the Copyright Act or the DMCA. And 5. Whether Google, as proprietor of YouTube, is the appropriate party for plaintiffs seeking of declaratory and or injunctive relief under the Code. If the sides do not settle before going to trial, the proposed one-day bench trial will be held in March of 2027. The next update in this lawsuit will come on November 18th, 2025, when both sides appear via video conference with Judge Susan Van Keulen. Auditor of the Year Leonard Leroy Truth Filipowski was arrested Friday night at the Union City, New Jersey School Board building after refusing to leave when asked to by police, as Filipowski was filling out a form and informing those around him of abuse allegations he has made against a teacher at an area school. Filipowski, a self-described abuse victim, has led the charge against an area teacher with accusations that the teacher has been abusing students. According to a report by Jonathan Frauditor Troll Who Know, no one has stepped forward to corroborate Filipowski's reporting, despite Filipowski's multiple protests at the Board of Education building. On Friday, Filipowski set himself up in the lobby of the Board of Education building while live streaming under the guise of filling out a Freedom of Information request. Instead of simply filling out his request and leaving, Filipowski extended his time in the lobby by interacting with patrons rather than focusing on filling out his paperwork. Towards the end of the stream, police were already present when a woman entered the building accompanied by her small child. The woman seemed leery of approaching the front desk and being filmed by Filipowski. Ignoring the woman's concern, Filipowski then approached her to ask her about his allegations about the teacher. Police Lieutenant Glenn Gaston Sr. intervened, initially asking Filipowski how much time he needed to complete his paperwork. Filipowski responded that he needed 15 to 20 more minutes, and then returned to interacting with the woman. Gaston had a heated exchange where Filipowski insulted the officer and ignored directives. He was informed that he was being arrested, and a scuffle broke out between the two as Filipowski's stream ended. Filipowski was arrested and taken to a Union City police precinct where the YouTuber The Exposure Report staged a live vigil outside of the building, which was streamed on his own channel and restreamed on Filipowski's channel. During the stream, The Exposure Report was able to communicate with Filipowski through a small opening in his cell window, where he verified that Filipowski was being treated fairly, but that Filipowski was very cold. Police officers within the building were all wearing heavy winter coats and hats, while Filipowski was dressed lightly, with his own jacket taken into evidence as part of the arrest. Eventually, it was reported that an officer turned up the heat in the building to 85 degrees in order to help with the heating issues. The Exposure Report's live stream revealed that a police officer fell down a flight of steps during the arrest of Filipowski, and that the YouTuber was facing aggravated assault charges of a police officer. It was also revealed that due to Filipowski's ongoing legal issues with Union City Mayor Brian Stack, Hudson County would be relinquishing jurisdiction of Filipowski's case to nearby Essex County. Fans of Filipowski showered The Exposure Report with food items during his broadcast, including deli sandwiches, pastries, and Chinese food. The arrest also brought the attention of several big-name YouTubers, including Jose Chille DeCastro and longtime Filipowski ally Sean Paul Long Island Audit Reyes. Shortly before midnight, police informed the gathered YouTubers outside of the building that Essex County determined that they had probable cause to charge Filipowski with aggravated assault on a police officer, obstruction, and resisting arrest. They also informed the gathered group that Filipowski was going to be transported to an area hospital as he was complaining of various injuries before he would ultimately be transferred to the Union County Jail. As Filipowski was being transferred to the ambulance, The exposure report told him that Sean Paul Reyes had obtained the services of Jacob Uriel, Reyes's personal attorney. Filipowski had no obvious injuries, but apparently had expressed concern about his own safety due to his ongoing problems with Mayor Stack. An update now. On Saturday, various YouTubers released footage of Friday's arrest taken by Filipowski's 360 camera. Police had confiscated the camera when Filipowski was arrested, but had given the camera, along with its SD card, to the exposure report at Filipowski's request Friday night. On the video, Filipowski's elbow is seen clearly contacting Officer Gaston's midsection, which resulted in Gaston falling to the ground. Gaston then yelled aggravated assault as other officers swarmed Filipowski. Filipowski initially struggles with officers, claiming that he is not resisting while he is on the ground. Strangely, at one point, the YouTuber screams that police were putting too much pressure on him with their bodies, when neither of the officers were near any part of his body that would exert pressure to stop his breathing. The YouTuber would later see a judge and be released on bond on Saturday. Special thanks to The Frog for contributing to the reporting of this news story. Conspiracy theories were plentiful over the weekend following the arrest and subsequent release of Leonard Leroy Truth Filipowski in Union City, New Jersey, for aggravated assault on Police Lieutenant Glenn Gaston Sr. Filipowski was arrested Friday afternoon after staging a protest at the Union City School Board building. While under the guise of filling out a form, Filipowski sat in the lobby and attempted to interact with patrons to attempt to tell them about his accusations of abuse against a teacher within the school system. The YouTuber has a long-standing dispute with Union City Mayor Brian Stack, dating back to 2024 when Filipowski was removed and later arrested at a city council meeting in Union City. That arrest spawned a gathering of YouTubers in 2024 from surrounding states in protest of the mayor. Since then, Filipowski has been a constant detractor of the mayor, making abuse and corruption allegations against Mayor Stack and anyone in his orbit. Filipowski has gone so far as reportedly purchasing $10,000 in Facebook advertising to promote his anti-Stack viewpoints to members of the community. Naturally, accusations of Stack's involvement in the arrest started during Filipowski's stay at the Union City Police Department prior to his transfer to the hospital, then the Union County Jail. It was alleged during the live stream provided by the Exposure Report and restreamed by Filipowski's editor on the YouTuber's own channel that Mayor Stack had called Gaston and given the order to take Filipowski in on trumped-up charges. While no proof was given, no source was stated, and the line was delivered with sarcasm, it was the first of many that blurred the lines between reality and the truth. The same livestream would provide the accusation that Filipowski's life was in danger if he was transported to the Union County Jail, as Mayor Stack had allegedly previously indicated that he would take care of Filipowski if he ever faced incarceration within the facility. Things exploded following the release of the 360-degree camera footage, that had recorded Filipowski's arrest on Friday and had been released by police to the exposure report, along with his belongings at Filipowski's request. While the footage clearly shows Filipowski's arm striking the police officer as Filipowski struggled, conspiracy theories abounded in the way the officer fell. First Amendment auditors across YouTube jumped on the footage, declaring that the officer purposely fell to the ground in an attempt to indict Filipowski on felony charges. Others claimed, without direct proof, that the officer had previously injured himself while off duty and had been denied insurance coverage for his injuries. Friday's fall, according to these accounts, was to stage an injury to the same body part in order to gain insurance coverage of those previous injuries. The allegations of flopping continued throughout the weekend, with such headlines declaring Gaston as an insane or rogue police officer who set up an innocent YouTuber who was only there to report the truth. Perhaps the strangest account of all came from Filipowski himself, who described his disbelief at the officer's supposed over-exaggerated fall, despite the fact that his 360-degree camera showed that he was looking away from the officer at the time of the fall. On the same live stream, as he stood in the cold outside of the Union County Jail, he went through his standard accusations against Mayor Stack, the Union City Police Department, and anyone associated with either. The hype, of course, was mainly for clicks and views, and has resulted in record viewership for Filipowski's channel. Others have had mixed success for the same topic, as dozens of YouTubers have come together in real and feigned outrage over the treatment of the Connecticut-based YouTuber. An update now. The hype surrounding Filipowski's arrest funneled an extraordinary amount of cash donations to the newly created GoFundMe campaign dedicated to his legal defense. As of Sunday evening, over $8,000 was taken in by the campaign, as the fund was immediately propelled into second place for the year in our crowdsourcing tracking. We'll have an updated report on Filipowski's financial take in tomorrow's edition of Auditing Insanity. Leonard Leroy Truth Filipowski's arrest on Friday brought the most significant change to the market in months, as his GoFundMe take for the past 3 days has soared past all expectations and proven that Sean Paul Long Island Audit Reyes is the most powerful auditor in the field today. Others have claimed that title, and others may have had a case. A prime example came with Jose Chille DeCastro, who raised nearly $50,000 in a short time in 2024 around his conviction and jailing for minor misdemeanor offenses in Las Vegas, Nevada. DeCastro claimed the title then in an unmitigated show of his then fundraising prowess. At the time, no one could touch his power. His fans were ultra supportive, and all of his needs were taken care of without a word. They were loyal and dedicated, and it didn't stick around during the 4 months he was incarcerated in Nevada. Since 2024, DeCastro has struggled to raise $500 per GoFundMe campaigns, with 2 of his 3 related campaigns under that mark right now, with a third sitting at a little under $2,000 with no new donations in months. DeCastro's run as the king of fundraising is over, while Sean Paul Reyes has dominated 2025. We previously were going to start this article by bemoaning the fact that between the government shutdown and hard economic times, only 3 campaigns received donations for the month, and the combined totals of the 3 campaigns came to $195. Since Friday, the market has seemingly rebounded as Reyes's 2 main campaigns are suddenly flush in new money, and of course, the new entry by associate Leonard Leroy Truth Filipowski has soared into second place for the year based on the backing of Reyes. Friday, November 14th, saw Reyes's Help Me Fight These Unlawful Charges and Injustice Fund take in $10 to win the day. Saturday, November 15th, was filled with goose eggs across the board, with no donations to note to any of the campaigns we follow. This changed on Sunday, November 16th, when Filipowski's GoFundMe was established and immediately took in $5,644 to win the day. Filipowski's impressive take continues on Monday, November 17th, with another $2,367 taken in by his Stand with Leroy Truth Against Injustice campaign. Reyes got in on the action with $200 brought in by his Support the Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption campaign, and another $51 taken in by his Help Me Fight These Unlawful Charges and Injustice Fund. For the month, Filipowski is now in first place, with his fund taking in $8,011 in just 2 days of activity out of a $12,000 goal. Reyes's Support the Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption campaign is now in second place with a $250 take for the month. His Help Me Fight These Unlawful Charges and Injustice Fund is now in third place for the month with a $161 take. Liberty Troll's Support the Fight for Our Constitutional Rights Fund is in fourth place with a $31 take. No other campaigns, including our own ongoing expenses fund, have had donations for the month. For the year, the top 5 has been significantly reshaped by Filipowski's entry into the market. Reyes's Help Me Fight These Unlawful Charges and Injustice Fund remains in first place with $55,220 taken in out of a $55,000 goal. Filipowski's fund slides into second place with $8,011 taken in out of a $12,000 goal. Clash with Bow's discontinued Help Bow Secure Legal Representation Fund comes in at $6,790 out of a $6,500 goal. Our own ongoing expenses fund has taken in $6,755 for the year, with $12,900 in lifetime donations out of a $20,000 goal. Reyes's Support the Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption campaign is now at $6,606, standing at an overall mark of $58,889 out of a $65,000 goal. Please remember that Really Cool News and the Auditing Insanity Newscast is sponsored by the small amount we make from our YouTube channel each month, along with your donations. If you'd like to contribute to keeping the lights on, keeping the cats fed, and putting out new editions of the newspaper and newscasts, you can follow the links in the description of this video or through the donation links on our website. We need your help. Both ReallyCoolSite.org's daily newspaper and our daily newscasts are funded by your continuing donations and what we make from our YouTube AdSense revenue each month. If you'd like to contribute to help us keep the lights on, eating, feeding the cats, defending ourselves from lawsuit threats, and writing news stories to feature on both the newspaper and newscast each day, you can do so via a donation to our PayPal, Cash App, or GoFundMe accounts. If you can't afford to contribute, please watch our videos from the beginning to end, like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can help by doing next to nothing, and we thank you in advance for pitching in.